What's up, everyone? Sean CountBlagorath here today with an album review. This time of the 2017 Hell's Headbangers release of Evil Sound Screamers by Acid Witch. I also forgot to mention, this album is a double review with my brother, one of my best friends here from YouTube, Josh Runner JMA. If you're not subscribed to him, go watch his review of this new album and go subscribe to him. I can promise you his review is better than mine because he absolutely destroys at reviews. He deserves more subscribers than I have, so I encourage each and every one of you to go subscribe to him. If you do not know who Acid Witch are, they are a death doom band from Michigan. They've been around for close to 10 years, I believe, roughly around that. I remember when their debut album, Witchtanic Hallucinations, came out, and it absolutely blew my mind, and still to this day, I regret not picking up the independently released Witch Skin Green vinyl of Witchtanic Hallucinations. Fucking kill me. And there's been a pretty big absence with Acid Witch between full lengths. Their last album, Stoned, was quite a few years ago, and with this new one, there hasn't really been much in between. There was a split with Nunslaughter and the Midnight Movies EP, which was covers of glam metal songs from horror movies, which I thought was a fun listen, but it didn't really feel like an Acid Witch album. It just kind of was a fun, cheesy, corny listen, which is cool, and that's something I kind of like Acid Witch for, because even at their best and their doomiest, there's still this level of 80s B-movie cheese that just kind of carries throughout the whole thing, and that's part of the appeal of them. And that's what I love about them so much, and that's what separates them from all the other Death Doom bands. But with this album, not just thematically speaking, and not just in terms of doom metal, I feel like this album really separates itself from the others. And the reason I say that is this album feels much more like a stoner doom album than Death Doom or any of their previous work. And what's great about this is the usage of synthesizers. While they have used them in the past, this extent, I feel like, is pretty much new for them. And I absolutely love it, and I think it's a brilliant decision. Now, granted, I will say this, and I will fully admit it. With this band, they are a Halloween season only band, and this year I've only listened to the past albums like maybe twice, so bear that in mind when I say it. Maybe they did, I can't remember. But in terms of the album in general, this is hands down, by far, no question, my favorite Acid Witch album. The album features tons of awesome samples, and I love how they tie the whole thing together. They sample this, basically it's an old 80s, maybe 90s video explaining the dangers of Halloween. And they sample it throughout the album. It's broken up into 3 samples, and I think it's really fucking cool how they utilize it. On the song Cheap Gore, they use probably my favorite sample on the album, which is a news report about the controversy around the Maniac movie poster. And that's one of my favorite movies of all time, if not my favorite movie of all time. So to hear them sample that, I thought was really cool. And then plus they utilize them not just as intros, but scattered throughout the songs. But I'll get to that in a second. With the sound of this album, it truly does feel like you are listening to the stoner metal version of a horror movie. And I love it. And one of the interesting things I picked up with this album is there's a lot of lead work and a lot of harmonized parts. And to me, this brings to mind, oddly enough, Amorphous Tales from the Thousand Lakes era. I love that. That's one of my favorite albums of all time. And this has a very strong Tales from the Thousand Lakes vibe, especially with a lot of the riffing on the first few tracks. It continues, the album kind of gets heavier as it goes, especially with Mutilation Mansion. I feel like that song has one of the heaviest fucking riffs they've ever written. And to me personally, one of the most suffocating riffs. And I love how in that song they kind of harmonize the vocals with the chorus where they say Mutilation Mansion, and how the vocals flow over that riff work so well. It gives it almost like a vibe that it's clean singing. And when I mentioned clean singing, there are also some very weird clean vocals utilized here and there throughout the album. And to me, it just kind of gives off that really cheesy B-movie vibe, and I really like it. And once again, it almost reminds me of those cleans that are on Tales from a Thousand Lakes and the Black Winter Day EP from Amorphous, where they have that. They want to be operatic, but they're not that good to be operatic. It has like that sort of vibe to it, and I really like that. Just the overall vibe of this record is just really dense and extremely perfect for a Halloween listen. And it makes sense that this album is coming out tomorrow on Halloween. It's just fucking incredible. The production on this album is very dense, it's very thick, but it's very lo-fi. I really like that personally, and the main reason why I like that so much is I feel like lo-fi can give off a certain density to make the music sound just that much bigger. And that's something that I feel like Acid Witch can really use this to their benefit. Between these really killer, heavy stoner riffs and these doom metal moments with these melodic tendencies and these just cheesy but really killer synthesizers, I think the lo-fi production definitely adds to it. The vocals, while they are no longer using the guttural lows that they did on like Witchtanic Hallucinations, they're more along the lines of Stoned with the more raspy mid-range screams. But there are certain things that I really love about how Acid Witch pulls off the vocals, and that is very minimal vocal effects, but when they're used, it's utilized very well. And I love the panning that they do. A lot of bands, they'll pan guitars and sections and transitions and shit like that going from left to right. But I believe it's on Mutilation Mansion. Vocals pan from right to left. I'm using the wrong hands because I'm retarded. Kill me. But the vocals pan throughout the verse, and I think that's really cool, and it adds to this kind of eerie effect of the vocals are coming from one side to the other, and it's like this kind of attack that feels truly unique, and that's like a characteristic throughout this whole album, is it's extremely unique, even though it wears the influences on its sleeve proudly. It still feels very unique, and it still feels like an Acid Witch album, and to me that is just absolutely killer. Now, one thing too that I gotta mention that I really love is the guitar tone. It still has like that very hazy, fuzzy quality to it, and there's still note definition, especially with the leads. But what's really incredible about this album is the nasty bass tone and the drum sound. First, I'll talk about the bass tone. The bass tone is absolutely fucking massive. It growls. It sounds like it is coming out of a pit straight from hell. It is just the thickest, gnarliest sounding bass I have heard in a long time, and the way it complements the riffs, it almost drowns out the heavier moments. Once again, on Mutilation Mansion, which I have to say is probably my favorite song, either that or I Hate Halloween. The bass tone, way it cuts through on the really heavy stoner, Sabbathy influenced riffs, it almost drowns it out, and to me that's not a bad thing, because I like just really heavy, obnoxious bass, and this album provides that in spades. Now, the drum sound. The drums sound like drums, and it's almost a lost art nowadays, where drums no longer sound like drums, especially kicks. Kicks, they lose a lot of definition, and the thing that I love about this so much is if you've ever been at like a band practice or something, there's no mics or anything used on the drum kit, and that kick drum cuts through, it sounds like you're in the room with them, and that is the best part about the drum sound, is all the drums sound so natural, it feels like you're in the room, and I love the kick so much. The kick drum sound is absolutely phenomenal. There is nothing artificial. There is nothing that feels altered about it. It sounds like you are listening to a real drum kit, and god damn it, I miss that. And I wish more bands would utilize that. Even within doom metal, kicks always have this very weird sound to me. They never sound like a real acoustic drum kit. And these do, and props to Acid Witch for capturing that essence, and overall the essence of you're listening to a band live and not a bunch of people sitting down and making sure everything is absolutely perfect and all the notes are lined up. It doesn't fucking matter to me because I care about the vibe of the music, and the vibe I get from this is one of the most natural vibes you could ever get from an album, and I absolutely love it. One of my favorite moments is the song I Hate Halloween. That song really reminds me once again of like that amorphous sort of sound with the lead work and the keyboards not being so much of like the 70s proggy key sound that's on Tales from the Thousand Lakes, but much more of that cheesy 80s synthesizer. It sounds like straight out of a B-rated horror film. I love that they carried that throughout the whole song. Why I call it the thing, I don't know. And one of my favorite moments in the song is, I don't know where the sample came from, but it's absolutely genius of these kids shouting, "Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat." And you hear this guy just screaming, "Shut up, shut up, shut the fuck up!" And the way it cuts through the song and within that section, it works so well and it makes it that much more fun. It's an album that's fun to listen to. It's a perfect Halloween record. And if you're not jamming this on Halloween night, you're fucking up. Now, let's be realistic. Am I going to be listening to this in December or in February? Probably not, because as I said, I am so moody when it comes to my music and what time of the year it is. I don't see myself really listening to this once when Halloween's over tomorrow. Unfortunately, I will probably jam it from time to time, but it's not going to be a consistent spin. It's a fun as hell album, and if the mood strikes me, I'm going to be gravitating towards this one over Stoned or even Witch Tannic Hallucinations or any of the EPs or the splits. I'm going to be going towards this one because it's that fucking good. Now, as I said, it doesn't really have the replayability in terms of long-term for myself. But overall, as an album and the intent to capture a specific atmosphere, this goddamn album's a 9 out of 10. It is that good. And I encourage all of you to not only listen to it on Halloween, but it goes up for sale on Halloween. Pick up the CD, pick up the vinyl. I don't think there's a cassette version in the works yet. Knowing Hell's Headbangers, there probably will be. Pick it up on whatever format. If you're a digital person for some reason, go for that. Support Acid Witch. Support Hell's Headbangers. This album is incredible. And once again, go check out Josh's review. Link will be in the description, and go subscribe to him. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you want to become a patron, link will be down below, and I'll see you in the next video.